Today on NewsWatch, looking for answers. The FBI is investigating Wednesday's killing rampage in California. See why officials now say the attacks were linked to terrorism.
Some things happened that I haven't talked about publicly. Things like getting canned from a job that I really liked. It was just kind of a little bit of a shocker in knowing that, oh gosh, you know, the haters are going to love this one.
Governor Sarah Palin gets real. She's sharing some of her personal struggles and how her faith in God helped her through them. And Islam is said to be the fastest growing religion in the world, but now evidence shows otherwise. We'll show you how. Thanks for joining us for CBN NewsWatch. I'm Caitlin Burke. Grim details have emerged about the massacre at the California holiday party that left 14 people dead and 21 others injured. The couple who unleashed the bloodbath fired as many as 75 rounds at the Inland Regional Center in San Bernardino and had enough weapons to do even more damage. Charlene Aaron has the story.
Thousands gathered for a candlelight vigil for the victims of Wednesday's mass shooting. The medical examiner confirmed the names of those killed in the attack, ranging in age from 26 to 60. Michael Wetzel leaves behind a wife and 6 children.
They are very overwhelmed. There are 6 kids that have lost their father.
This woman lost her husband.
I actually got an extra hug and a kiss before he left, so I'm just holding on to that.
As stunned communities mourn the lives lost, more details have emerged about the suspects in the shooting. U.S.-born Muslim Syed Farouk and his Pakistani-born wife Tashfeen Malik. Some in law enforcement are saying Farouk had ties to terror suspects. CNN, quoting officials, said Farouk had been in contact with known terror suspects overseas and had become radicalized after marrying Malik in Saudi Arabia last year. Another reason authorities believe the shooting may be terror-related, the arsenal of weapons found at the couple's home. 12 unexploded bombs, which may have been made based on an Al-Qaeda magazine, were discovered, along with thousands of rounds of ammunition.
They were equipped and they could have continued to do another attack.
One neighbor's wife had become suspicious.
She had noticed that they had been, I guess, receiving packages, quite a few packages within a short amount of time, and that they were actually doing a lot of work out in the garage.
But some neighbors didn't want to report anything because they didn't want to be accused of profiling. Meanwhile, authorities say Farouk traveled to Saudi Arabia at least twice in 2013 and 2014. And some have questioned whether or not his wife played a role in his radicalization. Charlene Aaron, CBN News.
Terror at a nightclub in Cairo today, where attackers killed at least 16 people using firebombs. Egypt's state news agency says the attackers threw Molotov cocktails into the nightclub, burning the people trapped inside. Police suspect 2 young men carried out the attack. It's not clear what their motives were, but state officials suspect there was a dispute with nightclub staff. Terrorism is becoming rampant around the world. That's why law enforcement officials here in the U.S. are taking steps to get the right training to fight back. Chuck Holton went to find out how they're preparing at a special camp in Little Rock, Arkansas.
In the wake of continuing terror attacks around the world, it's clear international terrorists are evolving to use ever more spectacular and brutal tactics. Coordinated attacks on multiple locations can quickly bring entire cities to a standstill and represent a nightmare scenario for any law enforcement agency. Just outside Little Rock, Arkansas, law enforcement professionals from across the country come to this 700-acre facility to find better ways to respond to such attacks. The Direct Action Resource Center, known as DARCY, has been developing counterterrorism techniques for 2 decades and offers a special course several times each year for law enforcement. Former Green Beret Rich Mason is the founder.
DARCY was started in 1996 as a way for special operation type forces, law enforcement and military, to get it kind of off campus, away from the flagpole, and to really focus cost-effective training.
The Law Enforcement Counterterrorism course brings in cops from all different agencies and throws them together in a chaotic, hyper-realistic scenario from day one, with terrorist role players shooting very painful plastic bullets.
This course is designed to defeat a multi-cell attack, similar to Paris, but actually worse in scale.
This is a training you can't get anywhere else.
Lieutenant Chris Amling is a sheriff's deputy in Pulaski County, Arkansas.
When you have a guy that is actively trying to hurt you, and it's not for play, I mean, it's real life, you put a lot more into it, you take your time, your breathing goes up, I mean, everything, it feels real. It really does.
The scenarios keep changing and getting more chaotic throughout the course, and that's done on purpose to keep these guys guessing and make the value of the training even higher.
You know, you have everything from suicide vests to being shot at, you know, it's kind of a full spectrum of violence we're able to simulate for the law enforcement entities that come out here.
And cops are lining up for the training, many taking vacation time and spending their own money to be here because they understand what's at stake.
I mean, it happens here in the States, and we have to prepare for that and be ready for it, whether it's ISIS or whether it's homegrown terrorism. We've got to get this training, we've got to put it on our guys, and we've got to make this real-world experience happen right now.
With the next attack likely a matter of when, not if, these men are spending lots of late nights at Darcy, making sure they'll be ready.
Knowledge is power, absolutely. The more you know, the more you've experienced, it definitely gives you an edge.
From Little Rock, Arkansas, I'm Chuck Holton for CBN News.
Defense Secretary Ash Carter is ordering the U.S. military to open all combat jobs to women, dismissing requests by the Marine Corps to exclude women from certain frontline combat jobs.
There will be no exceptions. This means that as long as they qualify and meet the standards, women will now be able to contribute to our mission in ways they could not before. And even more importantly, our military will be better able to harness the skills and perspectives that talented women have to offer.
The change means women will now be able to serve in the military's most grueling and difficult jobs, including special operations forces such as the Army Delta units and Navy SEALs. All branches of the military have until January 1st to submit plans to make the change. A bill unraveling President Obama's health care law and defunding Planned Parenthood is on its way to the House after being passed in the Senate. President Obama has already promised to veto the bill when it hits his desk, but GOP lawmakers say it's a message to voters that sending a Republican to the White House could very well be the end of the health care overhaul, as well as the federal money sent to Planned Parenthood. Coming up, Governor Sarah Palin talks candidly about one of the worst years of her life. Former Governor Sarah Palin became one of the most famous Republicans in the country when she ran for vice president in 2008. 7 years later, she's calling 2015 one of the worst years of her life. Governor Palin recently sat down with our Wendy Griffith in New York to talk about those tough times, her new book, and who she thinks might be a good choice for our next president.
Even for the self-proclaimed Mama Grizzly, 2015 has been rough.
Some things happened that I haven't talked about publicly, mentioned a little bit about them in the book, but things like getting canned from a job that I really liked, kind of sort of out of the blue because I called somebody out. Finally, we have someone with the guts who...
Palin was let go from her job as a Fox News political analyst in June.
Yeah, it was a shock, but you know, more power to Fox News. It's a private enterprise. They can fire somebody for wearing the wrong color of tie that day, you know?
They still interview you.
Heck yeah, and have a great relationship with them. It was just kind of a little bit of a shocker in knowing that, oh gosh, you know, the haters are going to love this one.
Then the tabloids went into overdrive when the long-awaited marriage of her 25-year-old daughter Bristol didn't happen, even though she's pregnant. All of that followed by a cancer scare.
So I finally went into a doctor and got something checked, came back, biopsied, came back with a cancer.
Melanoma?
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, well, anyway, a surgeon dug it out and everything was okay, and I didn't have to, you know, it was like, in the grand scheme of things, especially compared to other people going through great challenges with health, it was no big deal.
Palin says that's why her new book, a devotional called Sweet Freedom, is perfectly timed. It's all about going to God during life's most challenging times.
So I wanted to write this book to show people, hey, you want an answer? Let me show you where it is. I'll show you a verse that pertains to something very specific, even like taxation, or whether it's right for a Christian to carry arms and defend themselves. What did Jesus say about that kind of stuff?
This is not an ordinary devotional. This really is a call to action.
Because God doesn't drive parked cars. He equips us. He provides us the answers.
Governor Palin burst onto the national stage as Senator John McCain's running mate in 2008. Her speech electrified the country, but as Palin shares in her book, she still depended on God to help her. The night of her debate with Democrat Joe Biden in front of millions of television viewers, she desperately wanted someone to pray with.
Because it's a big darn deal, right? Well, no one on the campaign team seemed real enthused about praying, so I'm looking around. The only one there who was a little prayer partner was Piper, a little 7-year-old girl at the time. So I said, Piper, come here, honey. We got to pray about this. This is, this kind of competition, and God says we can pray for victory. So I said, Piper, let's pray we win. I said, Piper, just pray that God just speaks right through me. And Piper says, Mom, that'd be cheating.
No, she didn't.
She did.
Right now, millions of people are praying for this country, specifically who should be our next president. If the election were today, who would you vote for?
It would be a Republican. That is who I would. It would, because status quo has got to go.
What do you think about Donald Trump?
I meet with him quite a bit. I'm so thankful that he's running. I'm thankful that he's obviously not bought and sold in the traditional sense of politics. He calls it like he sees it, and to me that's refreshing. He is a fighter, he is a competitor, and we need a fighter for America, someone who will put our nation first.
Now, what would you do to defeat ISIS?
You have to quit being this namby-pamby kind of milquetoast, let's discuss things with them, let's reach out and try to understand them. No, they're the enemy, they're evil.
Do you think we should declare war?
America should be that leader saying it is time to declare war on that enemy and to recognize who the enemy is.
What scares many Americans right now is that Hillary Clinton is saying we are not at war with Islam.
So naive. It's a scary kind of naive that anyone would believe that the radical Islamic movement, jihad, that it can be understood and leading to some kind of embracing of it. No, we have to be honest about it. It has to be stopped.
Well, when you were running for vice president, you had a little baby.
Yeah, the world got to get to know Trig at 16 weeks old. There I was on the campaign trail with him. And he's 7 years old now. He's reading. He is, he's not verbal, so kind of hard to understand what it is that he's reading, but we know he is. He understands it. Piper, we call her the Trig Whisperer because she can interpret everything that it is that he's saying, and sometimes, it's like, Piper, what is it that he's wanting? And she's like, Mom, he wants his stuffed something or other. I'm like, how does she know that? But she does.
Bristol was pregnant with her son Trip during Palin's national campaign. Today, Trip and Trig are great friends.
The teacher said, let's see how independent he can be on this first field trip. But I was still like, oh, my baby, how's he going to make it all the way into Anchorage to this play they were going to and back with that? And Trip says, Nana, don't be scared. I'll sit with him on the bus. And it was just one of those things where it's like, Bristol and I look at each other and we're like, what would our boys do without each other?
As for America, Palin says we're living in the days similar to George Washington, where God's people must appeal to heaven or face defeat.
We're going to go under if we don't get back to our roots. Our roots were, it was illustrated by General George Washington carrying a flag as he commanded the army that fought for our freedom. That flag said, appeal to heaven. We would never be free. We would never be safe. We would never be prosperous if we did not give it all up to God. So yeah, we're definitely at that time again. We need to get back to that.
Wendy Griffith, CBN News, New York.
You can find Sarah Palin's new devotional, Sweet Freedom, on cbnnews.com. Up next, could we be seeing the end of Islam as we know it? Hear why some experts believe that the fastest growing religion in the world could be on the verge of collapse. Some reports say that Islam is the fastest growing religion in the world. If that's the case, then why are so many Muslims leaving that faith? Dale Hurd has the story.
The headlines say Islam is going to be the largest religion in the world. But Islam is facing a crisis. The terrible deeds of ISIS, done in the name of Allah and following the violent example of Muhammad, have horrified many Muslims who are now questioning their faith. Missionaries to the Islamic world say more Muslims have converted to Christianity since 9/11 than during the entire 14 centuries of Islamic history. Many keep their conversions a secret, afraid for their lives. In London, this British college student from a Pakistani immigrant family left Islam after a lengthy study convinced him the Quran could not be true. We hid his face because Islam teaches that apostates must be killed.
If someone leaves Islam or becomes apostate, he is thrown out of his family. His family will be the first one to abandon him. His friends will reject him. He will be killed or he will be persecuted. A lot of my friends, they said, okay, this is the last time we are talking to you because you disrespected Prophet Muhammad. You disrespected Islam.
Imran has not yet become a Christian, but has studied the Bible and says Christianity is superior to Islam. Some ex-Muslims become atheists, but some discover a God who loves.
Because of ISIS, many people become Christian.
In Sweden, Pastor Fuad Rasho, himself an immigrant from Syria, has baptized more than 100 ex-Muslims.
Every week, I meet almost one or more who come to me. They come to me and like to know about Christianity, about Bible, because they are very angry. They are Muslim, as they don't like to continue to be Muslim.
When it comes to religion, Europe has been called the new dark continent, and some Muslims here feel trapped between atheism and radical Islam. But they see hope in Christianity. When Nassim Ben Iman came with his parents to Germany as immigrants from a Muslim nation, he remembers thinking that if Germany is a Christian nation, then Christianity is a dead, sinful religion.
Nakedness in the television is because of the Christian religion. Living together, not married, is because of the Christian religion.
But then Nassim discovered real Christianity and is today an evangelist reaching Muslims and non-Muslims for Christ.
When the people understand who Jesus is, they will more and more love Jesus and follow Jesus. And when the Muslims understand more and more what Muhammad is, what the Quran is, what the history is, then they will go farther away from Islam.
Islam is going to collapse.
Brother Rashid is the son of a Moroccan imam who lived for 15 years as a secret convert to Christianity. Now he hosts an Arabic-language Christian program called Daring Questions that challenges Muslims to question their faith.
Many Muslims actually, they say, if what ISIS is doing is Islam, I'm leaving it. Some of them are becoming atheists. There's a huge wave of atheism in the Arab world right now. And there is also a huge wave of conversion to Christianity, following Jesus Christ. I have never seen something like this. Islam was never faced with this crisis before.
Nassim says Islam appears strong, but is only feeding off the spiritual void in many weak Christian nations.
Let me say, the greatest power of the Islam is the weakness of the Christians. That's what's happened in Germany and I think in America and all the Western countries.
Even while it seems that Islam is poised to overtake the West, Brother Rashid says Christians should not fear Islam, a faith that he is convinced is slowly dying.
Islam is not God's instrument to judge the West. I think people are afraid because of what they see on the news, but even violence is just a sign of collapse.
Dale Hurd, CBN News.
Because of ISIS, many people are becoming Christians. Be encouraged. Please stay with us. We'll be right back. The weekend is here and you may be thinking about heading to the movies. So let's turn now to focus on the family's entertainment department called Plugged In Online for a review of The Letters. Take a look.
She seemed cheerful in her daily life and tireless in her work, but inside she was experiencing a terrible emptiness.
The movie The Letters tells the story of Mother Teresa, a woman who served God in the slums of Calcutta, a place gripped with the sort of poverty that we can scarcely imagine.
Dear Father Van Exem, never in all my life did I know there was such suffering in the world as I have seen here.
There she worked among the world's poorest people, feeding the hungry, teaching the young, nursing the sick, burying the dead. She served the poor throughout 5 decades, always deflecting any credit she might receive to Jesus. But there were personal thoughts of this beloved nun that few knew. After her death, more than 6,000 letters of hers came to the attention of the Vatican. They showed that throughout her life and ministry, she lived in a deep spiritual anguish, feeling that God's presence was just outside her reach. But even in the midst of that personal despair, the Letters talks of how God's light can find a way through. The movie plods at times, falls a bit short at times, but its subject matter, Mother Teresa herself, is incredibly inspirational.
Christian woman, you are not welcome here!
She's evil. I may not be wanted here, but I am needed.
The stunning depiction of Mother Teresa's sacrifices, her work, it challenges each of us to think of opportunities that we might have to truly make a difference in our own small worlds and in our own small ways. With that in mind, I'm giving The Letters 4.5 prayers of faith out of 5 for family friendliness. For an in-depth review of this film or anything else at your local box office, visit us at pluggedin.com. And don't forget to check us out on Facebook and Twitter. Plugging you into the movies, I'm Bob Waliszewski for Focus on the Family's Plugged In Movie Review.
That's it for now on CBN NewsWatch. You can find more of our exclusive coverage of the issues you care about most at cbnnews.com. And tell us what you think about the stories you've seen here. You can do that online. We hope you'll join us next time. Have a great day.